Mr. Miracle, number 5's Tom King writing, Mitch Gerards on art, as it's been for the whole run. Oh boy, well first of all, I think anyone who reads this needs some alone time afterwards. You need to go to your bunk and spend some time with yourself.
Matt looks confused.
Yeah, why are you looking at that, Matt?
No, because I didn't. I was fine. I didn't need to go be by myself.
Are you trying to deny the eroticism that was on display in this issue?
I mean, if that's what floats your boat, cool. It's not what floats my boat.
What, sex?
No, I am talking about the tying up and the, not my thing. Not my thing at all. So, it looked great. Like, Gerard's did a good job.
But, like, this is Matt saying, I like watching but not partaking.
I'm just saying, it looked fine. The blues really pop. The placement...
Mr. Miracle really popped as well.
Yeah, the placement of the mask cracked me up.
I love how the mask is still so vibrant in its red and yellow.
Yeah.
Well, where was the mask, Matt? Don't be vague. You say what it was.
It was over his, do I say junk? Do I say little miracle? What do I say?
Little miracle sounds insulting.
His no-no region. Yeah.
I think the audience got the idea.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was not expecting Matt to be so uncomfortable and awkward talking about this, but okay. So this issue is basically the last day before Mr. Miracle's going to be taken away for execution, and it's basically him and Barda having a nice day together. 2 days technically. It starts the day before actually, because we the steamy erotic scene that we were referring to is sort of the night before this last day, and it's very erotic. There's a lot of sort of tongue at the side of the lips and all that kind of thing. Really well done. I like the whole idea of the video distortion effect coming in at various points during this. It's kind of like it's like breaking away from the depression and like forgetting that it exists for a second because of the just the moment of happiness.
That's it. You have
he's
one full page without it at all.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, and then the next page it's just nothing but that. I mean, not to get too specific here, but it's almost like that's the sort of climax sort of moment, if you will.
Yeah.
That page.
Definitely.
So life catches back up.
So they're basically spending the girls. There's a lot of talk about getting places on time. There's a lot of them stuck in traffic. Some funny moments, of course, where it's like, oh, we don't have a song. What was playing when we first met? Oh, it was all the screams of everyone like being tortured in Apocalypse.
We met in the pit.
Yeah. Mother Box, can you play me some screams? And then they're sitting there listening to people screaming for help.
Yeah. I think the phrase goes, can you play us the moans of the damned?
Moans of the Damned, that was the exact phrase.
That sounds like such a metal song. That has to exist, right?
Yeah.
Well, if not, that's definitely a band name. Like...
Yeah.
Real quick, at the very beginning, they go to Grauman Chinese Theater.
Mm-hmm.
They have the handprints outside.
Yeah.
And they go to Jack Kirby's. So that threw me for a loop there.
Yeah.
That's a nice touch. I mean, it makes sense to have that reference there.
And his inscription underneath is "Kid, comics will break your heart," and they're just like, oh man, like. And then you get the guy that kind of resembles Stan Lee yelling "True Believers."
I was going to leave this till the end because it ties back in there. But Matt ruining my plans as always. So yeah, you've got this guy here. So we'll save him for later because I feel like that ties in more with where things end.
Well, did anybody else get a Stan Lee vibe from him? Because I totally read it like Stan Lee. Or was that just me?
But no, so they have the erotic night. Like they visit the grave of what's his face, Oberon, and yeah, we have the stuff in the car. We have like all these sweet little moments where she like can't eat because he's like, oh, I'm not sharing this. By the way, this is the best sandwich ever. We're not sharing this. And she's like, how can I even eat this? And it's like it's a small little moment. Their hands touch. There's a lot of these little things where you just feel like they're both trying to distract themselves. And it actually feels that Bard is having a harder time of it than he is. He's kind of successfully focusing on the here and now. And you have that wonderful scene as well just after that where they're looking at the water and he's like, oh, it's beautiful the way the light's hitting it. It's sort of great. And she's like, it smells, gross. It's disgusting.
Yeah.
And he's like,
yeah, but it's not about the smell.
Yeah, but it looks beautiful. Look at it on the surface. And she's like, I can still smell it. And I think the metaphor, or it's easy to read into that line. Like, it doesn't matter how pretty it is, I can still see the trouble underneath.
Mm-hmm.
It's essentially you can't polish a turd as well. It's like, I mean, you can make it look nicer, but it's still gonna stink.
Yeah.
Well, no, I was going deep on that. No, see, Scott's the water, right? There's trouble underneath, right?
No, I get that.
Okay, just do it clear.
I'm just putting some parallel metaphors.
Yeah, I think it says, just look what it does with the sun. And I took that as Bart is his sun. Bart is his light that's always there, no matter what, and it was just a nice sentiment. And again, I love that he's wearing a Flash t-shirt. Like, it sticks out.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's because he's even at the start of the series, he was wearing like a Batman shirt or something in the first issue.
Yeah. Well, to me, Flash is always that even more so than Superman, he's the hopeful optimist. Like, Barry works best when he's like the light and funny guy, and so here it's like he's just putting on that facade while this is all going through, but he's feeling some real moments here and there. What is his last days on Earth?
Yeah, and I think then the next whole thing is like they're at the fair and he's like determined to win her a big prize because he promised a long time ago and it's never happened, so he's determined to do it. And we find out he kind of cheats, and like it really does feel like this last day of sort of doing all these little things that he's supposed to get done before he goes. It's a very sort of bittersweet, amusing scene because she's like, "Oh, you kind of cheated. Like, you didn't actually win it. You just left an answering machine message for the guy's friend."
Yeah. But you still got the prize, right?
It doesn't count. And that whole page as well. That's all through the lens of a camera. They've got someone taking a photo of them, and you've got the face recognition boxes popping up, and
it pops up on the Wonder Woman plush.
And I think there's a whole lot to say here about. Like, I think there's actually a lot to read into with where these boxes are popping up in each panel, and how it goes through the scene. Because at first it is just like his face, her face, Wonder Woman's face, but as it goes on, like when he moves forward to help the guy who's holding the phone, it kind of freaks out, and there's a lot of squares in front of him. Like he's kind of like struggling, and he's like can't really see if there's a person there. Right. And then at the end of the page, end of the scene. Like, there's still a square on Wonder Woman, but the squares on them have disappeared because they've turned away from the camera and they go in for a kiss. Right. Yeah. I just think there's just subtle little things like that there.
I will just an alternate read on the middle one where it's all the ones on his face.
Oh, go on.
It felt to me like that was him moving forwards and the camera was lagging behind, so it was kind of picking up all these different
to keep
ones.
Up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it also could be all of the different things he's going through too. He's not a whole person. So when you get close to him, you realize that he's splintered and fractured.
Oh yeah, that's just not a bad way of reading it. And the scene after that, it's again very simple imagery where they're watching a sunset, and again it's like his life is going out, like it's just sunset and then it's getting darker, and obviously.
Wave. Go ahead.
Oh, there you go.
I was gonna say the way that the color goes.
Yeah.
This is one of those points we talk about every issue because it happens at various times every issue. The panel symmetry. Whereas on this page you have it on the top, bottom, and the left and right. Yep. But then on the next one, it's the corners and the middle.
Yeah, it's a 9-panel grid, and
it's the odds and evens.
Yeah,
that's what I found. That's called when you have the 9-panel. You have 1, 3, 5, 7, 9.
It's the X and the diamond. I typically think of it as. But yeah, it's right, and the colours are really impressive because it's someone who's actually worked with cameras and like understands white balance and colour correction, and how sun's very orange and then it's very blue afterwards. Like it actually captures that really well as it's going down. But obviously he's also talking about, and he never actually mentions Darkseid or Darkseid is, but he's kind of talking about that though with what he's theorising here.
Definitely, and where that comes from. Like I'm reading this going, oh man. Darkseid really has like a basis in philosophy.
Yeah, because he's talking about the whole like if I say like if I even use the word God, and therefore it already exists in concept. Like
it plays on the I think because therefore I am. So if I am and then I say something, then that must be in some way.
Right, and then you look at Darkseid and he argues. Well, Descartes argued that if you add, if there's two choices, God's always the better of the choices.
Yeah.
You know, so
And existing is always better than not existing. So
yeah, and then you flip that with Darkseid and what the anti-life is, and the anti-life isn't death; it's a life of subservience, right? So if it's Darkseid exists and it's the opposite of everything, he's the worst of it. And yeah, the fact that King was able to take this phrase that's been around, right? Like Darkseid is a staple of the Fourth World stuff, and for him to break it down with like philosophy that's taught in those courses, it's holy crap, man.
yeah, and then speaking of pretty, the following page when they're stuck in the traffic jam.
Oh, just before, I love on the sunset. I love how the video distortion doesn't come in until the sun goes down. While the sun's there, he's completely caught up in it. He's completely distracted. As soon as it crosses the horizon, as soon as you can't see it anymore, that's it. It's back on his mind.
Mm-hmm. Next page is really pretty as well. It's when they're stuck in traffic, and it's all the sort of the out of focus light effects all over the page. And they even comment that it's actually almost kind of pretty. But and then they're looking over the city, over the valley. And again, it's this very bittersweet thing. It's actually what I really like about this scene is this is the first time where Scott actually seems more upset than she does, because at the end of the page, he's actually the one with a tear in his eyes.
Yep.
Yeah. And we talk about the colours. His flash shirt has changed to blue. It's the negatives almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's out at night it's the opposite. But no. And it's actually what makes the lights so pretty in the previous page is that everything's very blue except the lights. The lights are all kind of orange and yellows and all that kind of thing.
So, you remember when they were trying to do this type of thing in Witches, and it was, I don't know if you guys had read that.
Oh, the blotches, yeah. It got a bit excessive, didn't it?
Yeah. I feel here it's perfect. Like, the way that, it's not the same thing, but I feel like the intention behind it's the same.
It's because here it's only like one page, whereas Witches, that was every page, and it got worse as it went on.
But this is how I feel when I drive at night on the freeway. Because you have all of the lights, the headlights coming at you the opposite way. And it creates this visual distortion. And so the fact that it goes on through here, and they talk about the endless red lights in front of them because they're stuck in traffic. Like, it's just everything worked on that page. Even the freeway that looks kind of like a distortion, but it's not. That's just the way the freeway goes. Yeah.
And then the next scene actually mirrors the previous scene where they go back home and they because earlier on they had the kinky sex scene with she's in the lingerie and it's tying him up and all the rest of it, and it's all you can get out of anything. Well, let's see if you can get out of this. Like, there was like a sort of attitude to it. This is actually like the more like honest version of it, where they're both upset and he tries to console her and they just kind of have sex, but this time it's just more of a normal, like, giving into their emotions and just going with it.
And I think it's notable that on this time you only really see their faces, but the video distortion is present throughout much more of it than it was before.
More of it? You sure?
Well, just
one.
I mean,
it's the one part that's more extreme.
It's just one panel.
In the middle.
Yeah, but it's a more extreme example of it, because before it was wavy, but it was only at the edges of the panel, whereas this is through the entire of that panel.
Yeah.
Sure, but that was the entire page before that was doing the distortion.
Well, it just shows he's not lost in the moment like he was in the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah. And then we get on the next page our first Darkseid is of the issue.
I love how it comes after the boom tube, so it's like you hear it and then it's like, oh, I remember.
Reminder.
It's just after the boom tube. It's after he's had his day. It's like he's been trying to forget all day, and then he's lying there at night, and then he hears it, and then you get the one Darkseid as an issue. And and the publicist dude comes back, and he's there with the guys, and he did his whole thing earlier on where he's like, oh yeah, we're people like you too much, so we're going to spin this. We're going to say it's suicide again, and you tried once, but what did they call her? Big Barbara? I think you got her name wrong. Yeah. And he's like, we'll spin this, and like, if you survive, then great, but if you don't, then it was you that did it, and the PR will be good, and it'll be all that. And he's doing his whole thing, and it's almost like that. It's almost like he's representing, like, if we're dealing with this depression and the idea of suicidal thoughts, like this is the person inside his head telling him to do it,
justifying it.
Yeah.
That's who this person is. Now the thing that I left out though from the start of the book, which ends up bookending the whole issue and makes the whole thing possibly my favourite of the run so far, is at the start of the issue, Scott basically says to Barda, you know, if you told me to fight, if you just said stay, I would fight. I'd rise up, I'd fight Orion, I would, you know, I'd go into battle, I'd go to war. And that's all it would take is you to say, just tell me to stay, tell me to fight. And she's like, I can't be that. This is. I mean, I'm your wife, but this is on you. This is you for your own self. And then we have the whole issue of them having their last day together, and the sort of sadness that's there the whole time, and how much they need each other, and all the rest of it. And at the end, he's about to go with these people. The guy's got his henchmen with him. They're about to go, and then we just get, was it the zap sound effect? And we see blood, we see chaos, we see carnage. Barda is completely naked. She walks up, naked, covered in blood, to Miracle, and just says, stay. And that is the last panel of the book.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. And I think going back to the whole, like, you know, the whole thing's been about depression and mental illness and suicidal thoughts. I think going back to this is what this issue is hitting at, is the idea that, no, it takes people stepping in and helping. It takes people to sort of remind you.
Support structure.
Support structure, yeah. It takes people to say, no, I need you to stay around. You are loved, you are cherished, you should be around. It's that idea.
And it needs to be somebody close. It can't be these people that know him because he's famous.
Yeah.
Like we've seen. Like he has fans, but they don't really know him. Not like Barda does. So, you know, you have this guy that shows up and is like, well, you know, the new gods are popular on Earth, so we can't have, you know, that popularity diminish if you get executed. So there was this whole other thing about the popularity in public. You know, what's the public gonna think? And I think that weighs into his thoughts, his suicidal thoughts as well.
I think what I love about it is that it works both literally and metaphorically. Because literally, he's going to have to fight now because Orion wants him dead, and he's going to come after him with whoever, probably. But from the metaphor point of view, it's the idea, no, like, don't give in, you have to fight. Like, you have to fight. And it's kind of like, it works in both avenues. And it's what's made this book so great, is that every single turn, it's worked on this sort of, not meta, but this subtextual level of what it's actually about. And that's I think as it goes on, it's just getting stronger because the emotion and the metaphors becoming clearer as we go because we're building more onto it.
Yeah.
It's clearly a great series.
Oh, it is, and I think partly why this might be my favourite so far, because it is depressing as the book has been, it is sort of emotional as it's been. That final moment is fist pumping. That is like, yes, fight. You know, tell me stay. It's heartwarming.
Yeah. It is.
So, full marks for me.
It is.
I don't know. I was passionate there. By all means, you chime in.
I'd like to go back to, you know, the first sex scene, you know, where he's tied up.
Yeah.
Obviously, we spoke a lot in the first issue about how Scott Free has typically been the new god's Jesus figure.
Yeah.
And it really plays that up here. It ties the hands and the feet, which, you know, it's like the nails and the cross, and, you know, he's in that position.
He's in the crucifixion position.
Yeah. It really plays it up as in, and it's the idea of he's going off to sacrifice himself almost to give in here, which you know, obviously that's a big thing for that.
Yeah. Arguably, he thinks everyone's better off without him, so therefore sacrifice is what to do.
Yeah, he thinks it's the right thing to do, but then obviously the question becomes, is it?
And and if anyone has a really specific Jesus fetish, then you get even more out of this scene, I suppose.
I'm sure someone does.
I mean, I feel we mentioned art throughout, but the art is fantastic again.
It's again, I feel like when you get a book like this where it's a consistent artist, you kind of stop mentioning it after a while because you kind of just go, yeah, it's just great again. There's less and less to say because it's like, it's just fantastic. Yeah.
Because like we say, like, when I was comparing the two sex scenes, like, how different they are, and how one is kind of pretending that everything's okay and this be kinky because that's what we like, which is nothing wrong with that, but the idea that the other one's just pure unfiltered love because that's all they can do. They just break down and have sex, basically.
I do like that they both have that, you know, the blue feel to it, you know, the colour, and to keep it consistent as well.
Yeah, the nighttime feel, it's there. Or even just sadness feel. Like there's melancholy throughout the entire book. It's probably the biggest word I'd use to describe this entire series so far is melancholy.
Yeah.